Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the App Advisory Show. I'm Matt Flanagan, and I've got a great couple of gents here from a product called Hammock. Gents, could you just come and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go first. My name's Manoj. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Hammock. And in terms of my role in Hammock, it's overseeing the product, the tech, marketing, brand, operations, full works. My background is in technology. So I used to be a CTO for many years, over 8 years, I think, before I started Hammock. And working in large corporations as a chief technology officer, as well as high growth startups, and also in prop tech as well, and fintech.
Nice to meet you. And Marco, over to you.
Hi, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Marco. I am the COO at Hammock and one of the three co-founders, together with Manoj and Mike, who's our third. I am COO, so I oversee all our operations. My background is all in marketing and communications. I am Italian. I worked in Canada and in the UK. This is the third startup that I am involved with. So clearly, it's a long love story that I got with entrepreneurship. And together with Manoj, we met as we were both students. We were executive students on an MBA program at CAS, now Bayes Business School here in London. And it's one of those stories where we talked about doing something together one day, and the day actually came to be in 2019, and we've been at it ever since.
And many regrets on my
bad decision.
The problem with Zoom is you can't read the room that well in terms of like what the vibe is, but I think you're okay. I think that was you seem to be getting along pretty well to me. So I heard about Hammock around about 18 months ago. 2 years, which aligns with sort of 2019. Firstly, I heard of it because it was a really different name, like Hammock. Like you're trying to work out what that does, right? I know it's property, but doesn't sort of go with the flow of property. We'll have a chat about that shortly. But then I started hearing around the property. Certainly, there's a push from MTD. I think I saw it at maybe Accountex North and I think Digital Accountancy Show. So I started to get a bit of a vibe for it. You brought Steve on, who's known in sort of the accounting space as well, Steve Reynard. So sort of started to hear a little bit more. But I'd like to know from your guys' perspective what it is. Let's hear from you guys what the solution is and what it's there to fix and how it came about, really.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'll give you a short overview of what our product is and what it does, and then Manoj can expand on the story because he is the man behind this all.
Okay.
He can tell you the genesis. With regards to what Hammock is and what it does, is we are the MTD partner for accountants and landlords. Our platform is a financial management platform, all designed for landlords. What this means is that landlords sign up to Hammock, and then they find support for their banking needs. This means that through open banking, they can connect any bank accounts they have. It happens quite often with landlords where we have a few properties that are still on the personal bank account since 20 years ago. And then there's another property that they bought anew with a business partner, and that's on a business current account with another bank, and any other combination of this. Landlords who use Hammock can bring this all together in one list. And they can even decide if they are starting again fresh with a new property or a new portfolio. They can even get a current account directly with us. It's an option, it's not mandatory. So they have all their transaction history, which is searchable, filterable, and accessible online, both on the web and on an app, on a mobile app, all in one place. From there, we have a bookkeeping module where we do automated bookkeeping for them. So with any recurring transaction, During the setup, landlords track once what, the rent, any mortgage payments, any service charge, any recurring fees really. And from there on, our system tracks them automatically and lets them know that everything is in check, or gives them alert if something is amiss. So landlords don't have to go and keep checking on their bank statements or on multiple apps to see what's going on. Because the bookkeeping is automated, landlords also get automated categorization. So everything we do is designed for landlords. Our bookkeeping uses categories that are online with HMRC requirements for the property section of a tax return. So everything is there calculated both at a summary level and also with individual transactions underneath, which tends to be quite liked by accountants.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Finally, the one thing really that landlords are always wondering is, but how much exactly am I making or not making through my properties? We answer that and a few more questions with our insights module. So again, in real time, landlords can log in and they can check on their loan to value ratio for their portfolio and properties, rental yields, any missing payments, check on any void periods that are longer than they expected or they would want to, and all individual metrics that they use to make sure that they are happy with what's going on. Profit and loss per property, so they can also check on any unexpected expenses. Everything is in one place. We also have a couple of smaller helps with regards to document management. So anything, again, to the point of recurring transaction, any expiring documents, anything that needs to be renewed every year, every 3 years, or whatever, however many months, can be saved, and we then send reminders before its expiry, so landlords can keep on top of compliance as well. With all of this, we did find, after we started working with landlords only, we found that many of our clients were like, well, I'm liking this, but how can I give access to my accountant to all this? Because this data, I basically share it all with my accountant. So is there a way I can get them involved? And this is how we started frequenting the trade shows that you mentioned and just finding more and more accountants who were interested. This is the summary where we are now. How did this all start, Manoj?
Well, you nearly put me to sleep there. I'm not going to lie. That was a long discussion of Hammock.
I was full. It was good. It was full. People like the detail.
Right, if I'd answered that, I think I would have done it in 2 sentences. But you would have missed out on all the details for sure. That's for sure. How did this all start? So basically, probably about 10 years ago, I became a landlord myself, and I started buying a few properties. I still am a landlord right now, and then I also worked for a peer-to-peer lending company, so where we did loans for landlords, and then I went on to work for an online estate agent as a CTO, where they do lettings, and I had to build the whole tech on the letting management side and the sales side. And then I kind of spotted a gap in the market, which was most landlords use estate agents, most landlords use accountants, just like me, right? And every year I have to file my taxes, and I always did it in January. So I am one of those landlords who does it in January, unfortunately. But it's
you're one of the ones where we say, cull those people who get everything at the last minute, right? So you won't be having an account at this rate if you carry on.
Exactly.
But yeah, sorry.
I was one of those, not anymore. I'm going to use Hammock. But there's 2 main reasons why I used to do it in January, and that is because I hate paying my tax bill. Like, who likes paying it?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to see that sum at the end of the year. Like, oh God. The other reason is the amount of paper pushing I have to do to get my tax statement or bookkeeping and state of affairs, which is readable for my accountant. I used to download all the bank statements, put them all into a spreadsheet, find all the relevant transactions, then find all the relevant receipts. And I just hated doing that at the time. And what I value time so much as an individual. 1, I'm a family man, and 2, I spend a lot of time in charity work. So I work actively with charities for the past 15, 20 years. I've been doing a lot of charity work, and I also lecture. So time for me is so valuable. So that's why I always did it in January, basically. But
what Manoj isn't telling you is that he got an MBE because of his involvement with charity. So he's serious when he says that he spends time and effort on it. Yeah,
brilliant. Well done.
I did, yes, but we'll put that to the side. But it's that's why I started Hammock. It's just like, okay, I wanted to file my taxes earlier. I also want to know how much money I'm making per property. Like if I want to figure out what my profit and loss is each property, again, you have to download all the bank statements, stick them in the spreadsheet, calculate the yields, even the forecast. It was just an absolute nightmare. And I also used to miss out on expenses before.
Yeah.
And fixing something and just completely forgot about it. I look back at my history. Every year I had to do a gas station certificate, but I just never expensed it because you forget it. And that's why I created Hammock. And I just thought, I'm not the only landlord on this. This is actually most landlords in the UK have this pain point of filing the taxes and submitting it to their accountants. And I just thought it's going to be a better way of doing that. And that's why I started Hammock.
Right. So interesting, like we fall into this paperwork deadline sort of scenario, even from an end user or a person who's got properties. You're into that mode, and yes, I've also been there. I was also one of those January filers, as a lot of us are. And then, like you say, the things we miss out on then is we're not really on top of the paperwork anyway, because it's a case of just get the thing in and get as close as possible. And then, like you say, you're always behind on sort of where we are against those properties. And it's information from the previous 18 months, right? You could find out that 9 months ago, one property was no longer profitable, but you've been carrying on 9 months because you didn't find out 9 months after. So I find that really interesting. One of the things you mentioned earlier, did you start with talking to landlords and giving this solution to landlords in the first place? And you said like the accountants came after, when people were saying, hey, my accountants needs all this stuff. Can we open up the data to these guys in some way? So is that where you started with working with this through landlords all the way through? Yeah,
so I was the first customer of Hammock. So I built the solution out through my own pain points, and at that point it was all hypothesis, right? So I'm a bit of a geek like that. So I like to think like everything's a hypothesis. So I built the solution. Am I talking like rubbish, or am I is this really a mass market problem? And then so what we started doing is onboarding landlords pretty much straight away onto the platform and just getting feedback. So the product massively evolved. And when I started off, so all my properties that I own, none of them are HMOs. They're all houses. They're not flats either. And then, so obviously, when I built the whole solution, I centered it around myself, renting out houses not as flats or not as HMOs. So then we started onboarding landlords. Actually, I have flats. We have ground service. We have leaseholds, and etc. And then another landlord came along and said, I have HMO, so I actually need to do my rooms. So our product just massively started evolving over time. And then my estate agent charges me fees annually once a year. So I built that solution to handle that. We had a landlord who said, no, my estate charges me once a month, 5%. Then we had to tweak out this. So Hammock is a massive product now. It's been road tested by thousands of clients over the last 2 years, and it's now caters for such diverse clients. So people that manage HMOs, Airbnb rentals as well, people that own blocks of apartments and flats as well, people that own properties even on limited companies as well that use Hammock, people that rent out flats, all quirky stuff, and even like expense management. Some landlords send out a gas safety engineer to do all the properties in one go. Then we had to figure out, we had to split all the transactions equally across the properties, because landlords want to know how much each property is making. So the whole product's morphed out of user feedback. And that's how to be honest, that's how I built my career, like successfully. It's always been, as a CTO, it's always been speaking to the customers and, okay, how do we build a product that customers want to use? And we follow the same philosophy in Hammock.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult when you're doing that, because it's lots of use cases. You're trying to work out, okay, that's a legitimate generic issue that for that portion of people, or actually like this is the one three-legged donkey in the world that I've got to try and cater for. So I suppose when you're getting into that, it's trying to filter out, this is an issue that's going to be a repeatable issue for others, or actually this is just one really weird scenario where we're trying to solve it for one particular scenario that will never happen again. So did you get to grips with that okay as you went through that?
There's definitely been instances where we have shipped new features and then we realized that actually they were, the typical solution for one. To be fair, is one of the reasons why, because it sounds like we're talking just about the history, but in reality, this is happening as we speak. So since we started going, we are still on a weekly release of features. So every single week, we ship at least something new. Obviously, it's not always something game changing. Some things are smaller, but every single week there is something new that goes out. And this helps us a lot balance out, first of all, just the strength in numbers. So we understand what is it that's really making users happy. And also it means that if we do get something wrong, then, the next week we can correct it straight away. So that works quite well. And to the point that you were making about how easy that we got accountants involved, is that it actually came about as one of these conversations. So because landlords were like, okay, now I have all of this, but I still need to share it with my accountant almost as I did before. So, it is way better than having 5 emails and 3 spreadsheets, but it's still, how do I download this? How do I print this? How do I work around this? Which, our reply was like, well, how about you don't download and print? We just give you the tools to have your accountant just work on it directly online with you. And this is how it all started.
You're at this nice fluid point of an agile where you get the feedback, like you say, some will be not game changing, just regular maintenance stuff that needs to go on. And there's others where there's new ideas, new features which are required. But I think it's nice at those points, right? I've been in this sort of space like 6 years. You see that the fluid and agile and feedback orientated part, and then it starts to grow, doesn't it? And it's a bit hard to be as fluid and agile as that. But so people who are involved at this point are probably getting a really good, feels like a very special bespoke service to them, because you'll be so agile with the responses and movement of those features or updates as required.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is actually whenever we speak to landlords, this is a massively underserved segment when you think about it. Like, all landlords nearly all of them don't use any technology to handle this piece of work, right? They all use spreadsheets. And so when they come across Hammock for the first time, they're like, how do you handle this? How do you handle that? How do you handle this? And then they're just, by the end of the call, they're like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. But when they first join the call, they're like, no, they're a bit skeptical. Like, I've seen so many softwares come out in the past, and they've never managed to switch or go on to it. But we've actually hit the nail on the head this time with Hammock.
So I touched on this earlier, the name, and I'm going to guess why I think the name is, and then you can actually tell us what the real reason behind the name. I think the hammock is the idea that you sit back in your hammock, relaxing, while your property is looked after and you're not hunting around for paperwork. You can chill and just let your properties be managed and transact as they need to. How close to the truth am I on that guess?
You are very close, right? So
okay.
Most landlords are part-time landlords, and so we want to help them stay part-time if that's what they want to do. And like you said, Hammock does all the work. We do the automation. You can dish the spreadsheets, put your feet up and relax. What's more interesting, if you look closer to our logo, you'll see that the actual hammock, first of all, looks like a smiley face. So we actually want to help landlords I'll put a smile on the face. And the second thing is, you'll see it's split in 2 parts, the actual hammock. So one part is to represent the landlords, and the other part is to represent the tenants, effectively. And that's why it's split in 2.
People will be Googling right now, they're on their phone or on their laptop, whatever, trying to look at the logo to see if they can see that. Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for I wanted to know why, because it's not, you have some of the tech and solutions pick something which is very close to what it does, you know, the ROM seal, it does what it says on the tin, and some others have something which is a bit more thinking and a bit more you need to understand and delve a little bit deeper. So it's good to know.
It does. It definitely has its pros and cons. Like if you search for Hammock, we get lots of hammocks for sales. It doesn't work well in terms of marketing per se, but yeah, we just love the philosophy behind, the reason behind Hammock, and that's why we chose it.
Yeah, you can imagine some people going, I've searched that hammock. How is it like a piece of cloth between two trees really going to help my my property business, right? Yeah, I can see that. Next bit, just a bit about solution, a bit of a chance for you to big up some areas of the solution which you think are really resonating both with landlords and accountants, bookkeepers, because that's our sort of audience. But I think it's really important to understand what's landing with the end users as well of this product. So over to you, some key features that you think maybe some features which are already there and some features which are on the roadmap. So it's a chance for you to spend a bit of time telling us a bit about your product.
Marco, do you want to have a first stab at this?
So in terms of favorite features, we find, the automated bookkeeping and the fact that the tax statement is already pre-compiled is something which is massively loved by both accountants and landlords, because it works both with regards to the summary, so they can always have an idea, just a quick check, okay, but the figures are kind of like that. But because they are very easily linked to the granularity of each individual transaction, then it really gives both of them a sense of full control on what's going on. So, taking away uncertainty for us is a big thing, because to your point about Hammock, our name, the main idea is how do we save time and money to our users and the accountants who work with them. So that I would say is the main one that we always keep as the focus of our activity. With regards to what's coming, Manoj, what are you excited about?
In terms of, just to add to your point, actually, so the other main benefits of features, and going back to your earlier point, Matt, of how our product has evolved. So when we were speaking to, as our product evolved with landlords, it's the same thing happened with accountants. So we get new features, new ideas from the accountant side. Actually, I would like to do this, do that. So what we found is some of our accountants actually do some of the bookkeeping on behalf of the landlords too.
Yep.
So we've had to build out a feature where our accountants not only can they see the summaries and the invoices and the receipts and the transactions of the landlords, they're actually able to dive into their landlord's account and actually do some of the bookkeeping themselves if they do that in their practice. So that's a really super cool feature as well. So sometimes the landlords can relax even more because the accountant's doing some of the bookkeeping for them if they pay for that service. So I really like that. The other features in the roadmap, which are quite exciting for me, is it's really geared towards what the services that accountants can actually do. So when I think about landlords and accountants, is how do we add value to both of them at the same time? And actually, there's a massive bonus for accountants that use Hammock, and also that benefits the landlord. So I'll give you a prime example. So when I buy my properties, I actually speak to my accountant and say, look, does this make sense for me to go and buy this property in this area? Does my maths add up? Well, with Hammock, you've actually got the profit and loss statement for every single property that landlord owns. So the accountants now have an opportunity to provide advisory services, which they weren't able to do before because they didn't have that data. Yep. So accountants and landlords can now build a stronger relationship, and actually the accountants have an opportunity to provide advisory services, which, believe me, the landlords do need it. And when I spoke to my accountant, it was breath of fresh air that actually I can start looking at different areas outside of London to buy property and start looking at yields and start balancing that book of actually not just focus on capital growth, but also focus on rental income yield. So I think that is quite exciting. It's being able to allowing the accountants and landlords to bridge that relationship a bit tighter and actually add more services to that.
In fact, since we started talking with accountants, initially, of course, we engaged a lot with accountants who already had a lot of landlords on their books because they knew all the pain points. But increasingly, we're finding more and more practices who come to us because they are interested in developing new services to attract more landlords. So that becomes more of a synergy of business for us also. So they can use us to have a tailor-made solution to be more interesting to potential clients as well.
Allows you to niche everything, right? For that part of your business. So you can niche your marketing, you can niche your operations, you can niche your advice. I mean, I'm not saying you should just do for property, but it allows you to be really specialized and in your input and your output and your internal operations for those areas. So I can definitely see why that would attract people to, I've got a sector that I really want to hit is property. Let's get a specialized solution which is going to fit that scenario. So yeah, that definitely makes sense.
And just to add to that, like with MTD coming out in a couple of years, more and more landlords, even the ones that do it themselves, self-assessment, they're all going to start turning to accountants, and they're all going to start searching for it, especially when they have to do it, quarterly finance. And I think actually, if you look at the landlord market, it's now shifting towards they're looking to grow the portfolio now. So it's recently the report came out, more and more landlords are now looking to buy properties now, and that's gone up, I think, nearly by 15 to 25%. So there's more need, and there's going to be more people now looking for accountants who maybe did it themselves. So I think there's a great opportunity for accountants to go and find more clients as well.
For MTD there, how do you guys interact with the company's house and things like that? Because that'll be the next question that the accountants and bookkeepers thinking, like, so what's the connectivity to that world? What does that look like for you guys?
Do you mean HMRC or?
HMRC, all the compliance element of that,
Yeah, so we obviously have a lot of accountants on our books already, and what we found is that every accountant has a different setup and use different systems. Some of them use Iris, CCH, or some of them might use Xero for the submissions or whatever tool they use. And so our view is actually what we want is the accountants to have the flexibility to pick how they want to manage the filings with our landlords. So. So we're actually building, we have a big roadmap in our pipeline for integrations with partners. And that includes like all the major players in the market as well, because we're more about partnerships as opposed to competition. And I think also it feeds better for the accountants as well if we are able to integrate with other partners. And sometimes there's synergies for our partners as well. It helps them as well. So we're more down the route of partnerships and give the accountants the options of how they want to submit the quarterly filings. And some accountants that we speak to don't have a tool. They don't use tech sometimes to do submissions. They do it themselves. So this is also an opportunity for our partners to get them on board, because if we're integrated with them, they'll now get those accountants as well, and the accountants can pick as well.
Right. The moment you leave, you are right. I mean, I haven't seen a firm which looks identical internally in terms of how they file, and even that could be different departments within the firm. And also we have this sort of acquisition world where they acquire different firms with a different setup, so it can become a real hassle to really sort of embed that. So you're going to allow that flexibility of you're going to plug into how they file currently, and that'll be the way that you guys engage.
Yeah, and also we might integrate with HMRC for those handful of clients who don't have a solution and don't.
Yeah, okay.
And the smaller practices who don't have the budgets to sign up to all these tools, we'll probably. But ultimately, it's about saving time for the accountants, and so sometimes it will be quicker to just go straight to one of the partners to submit it, and we have to be open towards that.
I suppose this has been some of the learnings from engaging with accountants the past year, 2 years. You're finding this out that it's a different set of tools that you may have to interact with depending on the conversation. So that's probably played into your findings, I would imagine. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, that especially like our existing accountants that signed up. It's we're hearing new tools come up every time. Actually, it's just it's there's a lot of software out there, and also not just software, different processes. Accountants have different processes.
Yeah, very much. So I think we'll probably see more solutions with MTD deadline coming closer. Certainly on the last time that MTD came round, we sort of saw a plethora of solutions, all sorts from Excel up to linking in with the cloud systems or the desktop systems. So I'm sure there'll be quite a few more on the horizon over the next year or two anyway. So okay, cool. Little bit of a question, because if people are listening to this and they're interested, how do people connect up with you? Have you got, is it a channel for accountants and bookkeepers? Are you exhibiting? Like, how do people get in touch if they like what they heard and they want to learn more about the product and want to partner with you guys? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, so the easiest way is actually just to go to our website. So if you go to usehammock.com and click on the accountants page, and you can just sign up from there, and then you'll get a nice phone call from one of our team members or an email to actually book in a meeting, and then we actually talk you through the platform. We actually do an assessment with you as well, like, how much time will you save, potentially how much money as well, and then try to understand your landlords and also your vision and goal. Like, do you want to actually acquire more landlords? And actually, we can help you with that as well.
Okay, so we'll put this in the notes actually, so people who go to the podcast, they'll see we'll put the usehammock.com. So go there. You've got a specialist partner area for accountants and bookkeepers to go and link in and get a conversation with yourselves as well.
Yeah. And
okay.
Also,
go on, sorry, Manoj. Yep.
I was say, also, obviously, you can find us on the usual channels of social media, LinkedIn, and then also we are at most trade shows as well.
So to this, we do have a very easy email to remember as well. If I want to email us directly, they can use accountants@usehammock.com. Is accountants and our domain. And as Manoj was saying, we will be at most trade shows. So we are the ones in the purple t-shirt.
There's a few purple t-shirts going on. I've noticed the banking's got a little bit purple, so they might come actually about Stalin or something like that, But no, I think your name's definitely been bandied around. I've heard it when I've been at the sessions going Hammock, and it's sort of stuck. So however you got there, I think it was a good choice of name, because it's certainly sticking in people's mind. Was there anything else you wanted to share about the product or yourselves, or anything for the audience of accountants and bookkeepers?
Very good question. Probably taken up a lot of their time already. I'm just trying to think what else would be. Accountants are more than welcome to reach out to me directly as well. Marco, and speak to us and find out a bit more about any of this as well, actually. But Marco, do you have anything else that's worth noting?
Well, I just say, but it really is, whenever they speak to Hammock, they really speak to us. Like we are, you mentioned Steve before, who's on our team. We got James, we got Harry. Each one of us is available directly, and there's no corporate talk like oh, your email has been received. You will hear back from someone from the team in 48 hours. It is real people who engage with real messages. So please do come through. Be direct with us. We promise we will be direct in our reply, and let's just do some work together. The point is always to all of us. We're trying to save time and money, so let's get to it.
So I mean, what I would add as well, anyone who's listened to this, I think this is sometimes an exciting time to get in touch with the solution and get involved, because as these guys have already said, you guys are doing weekly releases. It's very sort of feedback led and listening to what people want. And I think sometimes you can really help influence where a product will end up. So if you've got landlords, you've got a problem that you haven't got a platform, then it's probably something you should definitely go and have a look at. And like I say, if you haven't got landlords and you want to get some, again, you should be having a look at what the solution does. So gents, we'll cut it at that. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed it. We had a bit of fun as well along the way there. So that was always good fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt, for having us.
Not a problem at all. So guys, if you're listening, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, YouTube, anywhere there's a podcast, I think we're on it. And also give us a little rating if you don't mind, that would be good as well. But for now, we'll leave it at that, and I'll see you on the next episode. Cheers, gents.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.